Welcome into a new BuffStampede Radio. Adam Munsterteiger, the publisher of BuffStampede.com. Pleased to again be joined by our football analyst, William Gardner. William, we're going to meet up on Saturday. I'm already looking forward to that. But before that, let's get into some drama-free football talk. How does that sound?
Can we do that? I'm not sure we can do that.
We can do it. We can do it. We can do it.
Let's see what happens here. And we don't get drama between us, but sometimes we see push any buttons or anything like that.
Well, first off, let's start here. Spring ball is going to be starting in 2 weeks from today. As we record this, we're recording this on Tuesday, February 25th, and in 2 weeks, spring ball kicks off. And I think spring ball is for the football geeks, right? Like you just love these position battles that take place. I'm so excited.
Well, don't you think it's been more fun under Coach Prime for two reasons? Number one, because there's hope of success, right? There's no point watching the damn thing, if we're going to win one game every year. But then you got different guys, we just ended the damn season and we already got a raft of new dudes to watch and see how they do and how they fit in. And question marks, what's Shermer going to do with the offense? Who's going to be the quarterback? We're going to throw as much. So a lot of things to look for this spring, and then there's the eternal quest. Me and all the knights at the round table out there looking for the holy grail of a good offensive line. I ain't found it yet, but hope. Well, here's a good pun. Hope springs eternal, right?
Right. Yep. And that's what I think it is, right? It's kind of like spring ball for baseball teams, spring training for baseball teams, of this feeling of like we can conquer the world. And like you said perfectly, it's more fun now because you can actually take that onto the field in the fall and win football games.
Yeah. And also just because there's, before the whole portal thing, you had the same dudes in spring you just had in November, with maybe a couple of high school guys added. But, now we got half a new team out there and half a new coaching staff.
Yeah, we're going to get into some of that as we go through this. Let's first get on to Domateo Peko being hired as CU's new defensive line coach. That happened last week. Very much an experienced nose tackle in the NFL, somebody that has a very, very good reputation in the game of football, and a couple sons that are pretty talented. I just wrote a story today about how his son Joseph Peko is going to be a pretty highly regarded 2026 recruit, or I shouldn't say is going to be. He is already. He's got 15 Power 4 offers at this point, and then Domateo Peko Jr. coming from the JUCO ranks. So he's going to bring some players with him to Boulder, maybe. I mean, as long as they want to go play in the same program that Pops is coaching at. But we have not had a chance to talk, William, since this hire got made, and I'm curious just your initial reaction, and then layer on top anything that you've come to kind of feel as you've digested this.
Well, I think it was an outstanding. Hire. It really adds, to the defensive line. I don't know. It's the same sort of excitement as Andre Giroud to the offensive line. And here's a guy with 15 years in the NFL playing nose tackle and playing it damn well. I mean, kind of 15 years in the NFL, you got to be playing pretty damn well to stick around like that. But and fairly, relatively recently. So he's not like an old timer or anything, but here's a guy who can absolutely come right in and teach these guys. In 15 years in the NFL, you've learned every dirty trick there is, and every technique there is, and every other thing. So can he teach it? We'll see. We'll find out. But he's certainly going to be able to get their mindsets right about how to be ready for games and things like that. So I think it's fantastic. I think. He'll work well with Warren Sapp and George Hilo. And so it just adds to me to the coaching staff that's going to draw players here who want to be coached by NFL people so they can go play in the NFL. So I think it's fantastic. I think it's pretty exciting. I'm not sure what else to say about it.
Yeah, we've seen every layer of a coach being hired at Colorado in it either working or not working. And by every layer, what I'm talking about is you could have an NFL experienced player that has not coached a ton. Now, Domata Peko was with the Dallas Cowboys organization last year, so that wouldn't be him. But we've also seen, the college guy that is journeyed and does well or doesn't do well. Like it doesn't really. It's like about the person and where they're at, and experience helps. But sometimes I think that like an overall enthusiasm coupled with just being excited about being in a spot can actually make you a better coach. And so I don't know if that's going to be the case with Domata Peko. That would be my guess based off what we've seen from some other guys that have not done a ton of coaching. And Marshall Falk would be in that category as well. Somebody that's mentored, like you mentioned, a guy like Saquon Barkley. So it's going to be kind of curious. I'm curious to see how Domata Peko like fits into just this staff from an enthusiasm standpoint. I'd imagine it would be off the charts.
Well, I mean, I think you missed. Well, maybe you didn't get to this point, but I think the difference is the guys that didn't make it. The Gary Bernardi comes to mind, who coached at every big school there was, and then came here and was on retirement. But his head coach sucked and didn't hold him accountable. And yeah, I said it. I don't give a damn about McIntyre. That guy brought guys on staff and didn't hold them accountable. Okay, and so you got an entirely different guy. Same thing for Carl Durrell. Brought that dude from Louisiana and didn't even require him to be there at practice every day. So that's not going to happen with Coach Prime. Coach Prime is not going to hire somebody that's not professional and fully invested and going to be there giving it its all, every time he's there. So I think that the head coach is as important as where the assistant coaches come from. And I just don't see Coach Prime, you look at his entire sports lifetime as a coach and as a player, and he surrounds himself with people that do it right and get it done. So I doubt he's going to just bring a guy in without having significant conversations and making sure that this guy fits who Coach Prime is and what he's looking for. Certainly the experience is there, but then you got to talk to a guy and like he didn't bring in Ocho Cinco, for various reasons, but he's going to bring in guys that I think he thinks is professional and are going to teach those things and can pass them on to kids. But like you say, that the enthusiasm, and I guess as you were talking, I was saying to myself, you got to have a love for the game to be a good coach, really, is what it comes down to.
Yeah, I said we're going to stay away mostly from the drama, but it's kind of like an Arby's roast beef sandwich that's very thinly sliced roast beef. We're gonna have a few slivers of drama in here, and the next question, like what you just said, kind of falls in line with that, and then we're gonna get to Oregon later. Real quick, I'm baffled when I saw that Shedeur Sanders was not going to throw the NFL Combine. I said, when was he ever going to throw the NFL Combine? They already know what he can do. I thought that was a foregone conclusion. And then a few times you can't sleep at night. You turn on ESPN and like there's some criticism towards that. And I'm like, what is this world doing sometimes? Like he's thrown so many accurate passes. You know what he can do. What is going to be gained by throwing in shorts? The one question about Shedeur is pocket presence and how that's going to develop with the NFL. You're not getting that in a combine setting at all. Yeah. And I love the fact that he's going to throw to his guys back in Boulder. Bring your butt to Boulder and stop complaining about it.
Well, I think anybody that's criticizing that, they're okay. Have to say it. They're either doing it for clicks or they're ignorant.
Or what? Clicks or what? Okay. Well, the people that know, they know. They saw that episode a few months back.
I understand that your wife had so I got to stay clean for Liz. I'm not as scared of you, but I think she can take me. So.
She can take all of us. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that anybody criticizing this move is an idiot, or you have an agenda and you just want to draw some controversy to your show and what have you, because this is not a surprise. The NFL teams are not surprised. They didn't expect him to throw. There's nothing for him to gain. throwing at the combine or anything else. The only place he can go from where he is down, you know. So do it at your own place where you've got individual teams there who can ask you to do whatever they want you to do, and you've got your players that you're used to, and the field that you're used to, and everything else. So uh, anybody that's criticizing this doesn't understand the game, or they're just have an agenda and they just want to, they're just trying to draw some controversy by, like poke the Sanders button, and
Yeah.
see if people don't make a fuss about it. But to me, you just look like an idiot talking about that sort of stuff.
Yeah, and I have no doubt that Shador Sanders could go out there and do an amazing job, but like you're not in a system like Shador Sanders is very much a systematic quarterback. We see him get in the lab with these guys. He understands his receivers. He understands the timing of things. And you put him in a setting like that, it's not a good setting for a quarterback that has done what he has done at the college level. I guess that's the other part of it that those folks fail to mention is just that like a good quarterback knows his players around him. In a combine setting, you don't have that.
Yeah, and the combine's not necessarily for those top 5 to 10 players anyway. Maybe not even for the first round. The combine is to really test guys. I don't know how many they invite out there, but there used to be back in the day, they didn't really look at the guys that close, and then they got the combine so they can at least measure them. They know how tall they are, how long their arms are, and how far they can jump, and what kind of power they have. So to that extent of actually, because I remember back in the '80s, the Broncos drafted some nose tackle from Syracuse, and when he got here, he was 5'11", right? He was supposed to be 6'3". Nobody gone out there and measured the damn guy, right? So now that this is partially to remedy that sort of thing, but the combine is not for players like Shedeur Sanders. That's to measure everybody else and see what they can do. If you're already going to be a top half of the first round draft pick, you don't participate in the combine.
And he's going to go out to the combine
Yeah,
and look these GMs and other front office personnel in the face. They're
yeah,
going to know how tall he is. They're going to see his build. Like that's not going to be a mystery to anybody.
right.
And then they're going to get to see him throw a boulder. Like this whole thing is
Well,
just ridiculous.
and what you really want is it's like when you're recruiting out of high school, like you're recruiting offensive linemen. What you really need to find out is what do they have in here, or what do they have in here. Do they really are they willing to pay
Yeah.
the price? And I think he's shown that he is. But you want to talk to a quarterback. Does he understand the game? When I talk about nuances of the game, does he understand? Is he ready to go in terms of understanding? And is he personable? Because you know quarterback kind of got to be leaders, and so those are the kinds of things they can get face to face without him putting on shorts and running around on the field.
Yeah. I mean, regardless, Shador Sanders, as up in arms as I sounded there a minute ago, is going to be doing just fine in life, and he's going to have a nice NFL career. His accuracy is pretty incredible, and he will
Right.
work kind of that pocket presence stuff out. I think at the next level, it kind of depends on the team and the system and who's around you, and a lot of that is kind of out of your control. But yeah, I don't have really an NFL team. I cheer for the
Yeah.
Broncos because I live in Denver, but I'm really anxious because I really respected Shador Sanders and kind of how he handled the spotlight and a lot of that criticism that was unfairly thrown at him during his time at Colorado. I mean, depending where he lands, that might be my team to try to like at least tune into the fourth quarter next season.
Yeah, I think that's part of a thing that you're going to look for with him too, is that he's been under pressure, he's been under the spotlight, and he played just fine. Some guys can't handle that. No matter where you're playing, there was a different kind of spotlight on Shador the last couple of years. That's more akin to being a big NFL quarterback. And he handled it just fine.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't know if there was a quarterback in the country under a bigger spotlight, right? I mean, Cam
Right.
Ward certainly had that late in the season with the Heisman Trophy campaign and other guys trying to win a college football playoff game. But, when you have a question about the running game and Shador doesn't even really talk about uh, the offensive line and somebody takes it the wrong way and makes a big story out of it, like there's not a lot of quarterbacks coming into the NFL that have dealt with some of the nonsense that he has. Okay. That's the end of the nonsense, right? I hope. No, we got Oregon coming up, and this.
Well, I think he's got the our program has been in a very positive way. I'm going to say a circus to some extent the last 2 years. Just because of everybody coming around, and 2 years ago the Saturday shows, and all the ridiculous idiot media junk and all that sort of stuff. So it's been he's had the kind of exposure that you're going to have as an NFL quarterback, and I can only just I haven't lived in well, I lived in San Diego for a while, but they were never Charger crazy the way this place is for the Broncos. So you watch the Broncos, right, and they get a quarterback, and the kind of spotlight you're going to be in a place like Denver as a quarterback. He's done that. He's been there. So
Yeah,
I think that's
yeah,
positive.
yeah.
I'm
Well, Jimmy Horn Jr., LeJounte Wester, and Travis Hunter are also invited to the combine. I don't know what Travis is going to do. We haven't quite heard there. Gosh, I just want to have a front row seat at
Yeah,
CU Pro Timing Day to watch him do the vertical leap. That's all I want to
yeah.
see.
Well, and I want to see the
Well,
times on.
what is that? 44, 43? It's got to be like plus
Yeah,
40.
going to be crazy. It's going to be nuts. But then I just want to. I also want to see the times on all these guys when they run to see how fast they really are. Because we've seen what Jimmy Horn can do on the field, LeJounte Wester on the field. Now I want to see what it looks like. On a stopwatch. So that'll be fun. This will be this will be the funnest uh, uh, pro timing day in a long time at
Yeah.
CU. Like I want to see what Chidozie Nwankwo measures out at, and what he does on the bench and things like that, and some of the other guys that are going to get looked at here, and so it'll just be interesting.
Jimmy Horn, if fully healthy, could be one of the rare guys to come out of CU with sub 4.4, right? In the
Yeah,
40.
yeah, I would think
Like high 4.3s. I mean, that's
the way, yeah, I
really,
mean the way he ran away from dudes on the field this year was
that was so
really good.
fun. His acceleration is pretty
Yeah,
elite. Yeah, he just needs to stay healthy. And then LeJounte is just this guy that knows how to find the creases in a
right,
defense.
right.
And so
Well,
it's going to be fun actually tuning into the NFL, I think now. We've had some
and
buffs in the NFL, but guys that have not had prominent roles in recent years.
and Wester's got just really sort of supreme small area agility and
Yeah.
quickness, and can just make change directions and things like that. And I think he gets open because he has such quick change of direction. He can make people look stupid. So
Yeah.
be fun.
But that's, I guess, a point to close out here is that the transfer portal is kind of a bummer in the sense that you don't get to go watch these guys develop in a program for 4 or 5 years. But, LeJounte Wester was only in this program for a year, and I
Yeah,
can't wait to watch him
oh,
play in the NFL.
yeah. And I want to watch Will Shepard and see what he does in the vertical jump, and
Yeah.
things like see him, because I think he's going to be a dominant player in the crazy talk. He could be the best of them. I don't know, given if he gets onto a team that uses him in the right way. But we just got a lot of guys on the roster this year that are going to get looked at pro day, and it's going to be fun.
Yeah, no question. And that leads us into our ad break here. And we are excited to go to the Hungry Toad in Boulder, 2543 Broadway in Boulder. Our guy, Hanson Rada, is going to let us in there on Saturday. We're going to get there around 6 o'clock. If you want to come out and hang out, William and I will be there. We're not going to do a podcast this time because, William, you've got some work to do. We'll do a podcast when we're not chit-chatting as much as we like to do when we get to the Hungry Tub, because it's a very welcome atmosphere, and you just kind of get your food in there and you start talking, and the time flies away. Like, we were gonna do 3 episodes, I think, at the Hungry Toad the past time we went there, and we ended up doing one because we were just having such a great time just talking.
Right. Just yeah, and eating, and this time I'm drinking beers, and so we'll
Okay.
just maybe we'll try a little bit of everything, and just have some fun. Hopefully people come out and we just talk about CU, and I don't know, just have fun with the place.
Can't wait to get back to the Hungry Toad this Saturday at 6 p.m. And if you can't join us there and you're in the Boulder area, just find the Hungry Toad and enjoy a great lunch, dinner. They've got you covered. Today's episode is brought to us by Macaulay Capital Fractional CFO Services. Is your business looking for financial guidance and support, but not yet big enough to hire a full-time CFO? Well, we have a solution for you. Hiring a fractional CFO who can work with your business on a part-time basis. You get the benefit of having a seasoned financial expert on your team without the commitment or expense of a full-time hire. And here's the best part. It's likely that a partnership with Macaulay Capital will be a win-win situation, meaning that your business will make more money from the guidance of a fractional CFO than the total cost of partnering with us. For more information or to set up a meeting, please visit MacaulayCapital.com. That's MCCAULEY Capital.com. Let's get into our Buff Stampede mailbag, William. Let's start with this question from Dude We Were Never Better. He asked, what home game will be best to attend, all things considered? What would you recommend as must-do eat, drink, and be merry activities? I'll fly in back once in 20 years. That's great, man. That you love it when somebody that hasn't been to Boulder for 20 years still has probably their Buff flag hanging out front of their house, and they're coming back to a game this year. And I've always said, I'll let you chime in after this before we get to like the libations part of this. I've always said early October in Boulder. If you have not gone to an afternoon game at Folsom Field that time of year, you're really missing out. There's something about that crisp air in the morning when you're tailgating, and then it transitions. You got to shut off the hoodie because you're in the stands, and it turns into a beautiful day. I don't know if there's a better place on this planet than Folsom Field on an October afternoon. So that would put you at probably the Iowa State game in early October for CU this year. What do you think?
Well, if you're going to be out, that's the only October game at Folsom. I'm looking at the schedule, got it up right now. That's the only October game there is, because then you got TCU down there, and you got it off, and you got Utah out in Salt Lake City. But I mean, what's the best game to go to? I don't know. I'd have to talk to you and ask you what it is that you want. Do you want a nail biter, really top ranked teams? Or do you want to kick somebody's ass and be up 40-0 at half? And I don't know. I was thinking it's kind of fun. Might be fun to be there for the Delaware Blue Hens, and it looked like we're kicking the crap out of Michigan because they got those helmets.
But Draylon Miller's just running through 8 guys to get into the end zone. Yeah, I can see that.
Or like the opener. Georgia Tech is always a good. That first game excitement. Everything's just at a fever pitch, and everybody's been ready for a long time. And so Georgia Tech would be a good one. And if BYU, that could be a rematch, it'd be a hell of a game. So I don't know what to tell them. I guess you pick the team that you want to see most, but my vote would be on that Georgia Tech game and be there for the excitement of game one, and everything for the first time in the season and what have you, or maybe the next week with Delaware. I don't know, but that's what I would say.
And it kind of depends a little bit in terms of the other stuff of your age and who you're coming out with. If you're coming out with your wife, I think you want to go to Pearl Street and walk around and bop in some stores and hit some nice restaurants. If you're coming out solo and you're a younger guy, you're going to want to hit the hill up. If you're kind of in the middle there, just find some good tailgates. And we've got people on our message board that have good spots to go to.
Yeah. And he says he's only been back once in 20 years, which I'm guessing he's got to be 40 plus. So,
that's a good point.
So, probably that age group, but get there early.
Even tailgates, though, at 40 plus can be a lot of fun. Our BuffStampede.com tailgate's a good time. So I think you want to do that. That's one of the fun things about CU, especially if it's a day game.
Yeah, and they haven't mentioned that none of the times are listed yet, so you can't really use that as a factor. But, and don't they do the Pearl Street? The team goes down to Pearl Street the night before or something like that? So
They do. They haven't done that as consistently with the new team under Coach Prime. They will, I think. I would imagine that October game will either be family weekend or homecoming, which will make it more of a, I guess, more of an expensive ticket. So that's another part. Like, there's so many different factors you got to put into the mix here. If that's the case, they would probably more likely be out on Pearl Street. That's when they seemed to do it last year.
and how about this? How about this? If you're of a certain age and you use a walker or a wheelchair, you get down on the field and you could beat Ralphie around the field.
Oh man. Wow. Hoodie William is showing himself now. I got a hoodie over here. I need to join you. I don't know if I've got the aptitude to go after Ralphie today, but that program took a lot of flack after the Alamo Bowl, and yeah, just watching Ralphie five do the same thing on that field. Oh my gosh, it was
Here's
tough.
a large dog that doesn't want to run, but we put horns on it, so there we go. All right, moving along.
Yes. All right. We are moving along swiftly here to our next question. It comes from RDU Buff 6236, a great game back in 2001. He asked, how do you feel about the tight end room? Do we think this can be a hidden strength of offense for either quarterback that may be starting? And along those lines, with the first question, J2JD Buff asked, I'm impressed with Zach Atkins. He looks to be a pass catching Nelly, but also looks to have some beef to him, so he could be a factor under Coach Prime? Question mark. Or is this just another Buff tight end mirage that will fade into the background? And he mentioned, guys that have transferred into this program the past couple of springs. Obviously, there's been some misses on the transfer portal side of things with receiver. He also said, can he be a beefier Mikey Harrison? I don't like the Mikey Harrison comparison at all, because when you really reflect on that, he was a jumbo tight end, a jumbo receiver. He was not a tight end out there. So Zach Atkins, I'm pretty excited about. I guess we glossed over that tight end room too quickly in that position by position thing we did, because we got a couple comments about that. It's not that I have necessarily a lot of negative feelings towards anything. I just don't, I want to see it this spring, right?
Yeah, until we know what Shermer's going to do with our offense, it's difficult to speculate about a lot of things on terms of the offense because we don't know what the hell we're going to see post Shador, But I'm going to start out with Savell Smalls because I'm just going to say he's a lot better tight end than all you people think, man. And I don't know why some people get so down on certain CU guys, but they can never change it after that for some reason. But Savell Smalls was effective in the pass game, I think, for what we wanted a tight end for last year. And he was effective in the run game, the 2.5 times we ran the ball every game. So I thought he was effective. I thought Sam Hart was doing some decent things until he got his knee rolled up on that goal line play.
That was
So
rough.
yeah, and I think and Atkins and Smalls and Hart give us three guys that can really play the position and do something with it. And then we're going to get that. Somebody's got a question about the run game, and we'll get more into it back then. But when we were doing the split zone and bringing Smalls or Hart across the formation, they were doing a damn good job, and it worked. So I don't expect either of the two freshmen to really participate much this year, but who knows. And then it's a walk-ons aside from that. But I think with Smalls and Hart and Atkins, you got the possibility of a pretty decent tight end room. And now, we're going to have a new quarterback, and he's not going to have a connection to any of the receivers unless what he develops in the spring, right? So any of those tight ends could become his main guy or his outlet or safety valve or whatever. So I think it's going to be a whole new era for the pass game, including the tight ends.
Yeah. I mean, the UCF game gives me that hope that they're going to
Yeah,
have more 11 and 12 personnel this year, right?
yeah, yeah. Because they did it for like 2 or 3 games right there in the middle, and UCF I think was the first. And I'd have to go back and look, but they were very effective, and we'll get that. There's a question about that. We'll talk more about that. But
Yeah.
when they did that, they were very effective, and so if you look back at Shermer's history as a play caller, and that's more his style, it seems to me, what he's done in the past. So we'll
I
see.
mean, yeah, he spent so much time in the NFL that would make sense. Yeah, and it also made sense to when Jimmy Horn was healthy to have
Right,
LeJohntay Travis, and Will
right.
Shepherd out there too. Like it's less of a criticism on that. It's more of a going forward. I think you've got to be able to be a little bit harder to game plan for the other defense, and bringing those looks and having a good tight end, it can open up so much stuff for your offense.
Yeah, and people don't realize that. I mean, back when we had Laviska Shenault, people would say, "Why throw to the tight end? It just takes the ball out of Laviska's hands." Well, because it makes the defense play honest, and they don't have to, they can't as easily double and triple him with coverage. And we saw last year that Savell Smalls and a string of 5 or 6 games in a row, he had a first down catch, and that's, you know, unless you're going to have a tight end centric offense, that's what you're asking for from a tight end is those first down catches, those touchdown catches, in the red zone and things like that, and safety valve kind of stuff when your receivers can't get open. So I think we got the guys to do that, and I think we got, the coach that knows how to do that, and then we'll see if he does it.
Farhang asked, assuming no injuries, who's the starting quarterback in week one? How about in November? I'll let you lead off here.
Well, I think the smart money's on Salter because of his experience
Right.
and his skills, and I'm not going to rule out Ryan Staub because I think he's a pretty damn good quarterback and a competent quarterback. And again, we don't know what the offense is going to be. Is the offense going to be built around Caden Salter's skills, or is it going to be built around Ryan Staub and Julian Lewis skills? Because they're not exactly the same quarterbacks, right?
No.
But I
It's
think
gonna
I
have
think
it's gonna have to vary. It just is going to have to because
right,
with Salter you can't run the same offense you would with those two other guys.
right. And so I have to assume that he says assuming no injuries. So whoever's a starting quarterback in week one, if they're not the starting quarterback in November, it's because they weren't very good, right?
Yeah.
If he
You're
says
not going there when spring hopes when hope springs eternal, right? You can't go there yet.
I think I think we if the question is assuming no injuries, then I think whoever's a starting quarterback in week one is probably a starting quarterback in November, unless they really crap the bed. But I think I would put, gun to my head, you get it $5,000, I'm putting it on Salter.
Yeah.
That
And
doesn't,
I I
and I don't think, I'm not saying that as a sure thing because I think all three of them got
right.
positive.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with you. I make the same predictions, but I've also everything I hear about Julian Lewis and Ryan Staub makes me really just impressed with how they're taking on this
Yeah,
situation that they're placed into. And so that's the greatest thing, right? Is that there's this true quarterback competition and no one's going to be handed the job. But when you look at what Salter did, his third year in college at Liberty? I mean,
2 years.
yeah, 2 years ago, undefeated goes up against Oregon in the Liberty Bowl, but or he was at Liberty and they went up against Oregon in the bowl game. He was as dynamic a runner as there was at the quarterback position in college football that year. So
Yeah.
and that makes you excited. I can't. What was the last true dual threat quarterback that had a ton of success in Boulder? It's post. I mean,
It's got to be, you got to go all the way back to um,
Hagen?
uh,
No, not that far back.
got to go all the way back to number 10, don't you? I mean, who the hell have we had since then?
Cordell, yeah, yeah, yeah. What did Cordell run? I would have to look up the stats, but like he was still more of a pocket passer. Like he became more of slash when he got to the
Well,
NFL.
but he had those skills all along. I mean,
Yeah,
they changed the offense for Cordell because prior to that it had been primarily an option offense, and he ran that option offense the first couple of years, and they changed it for his particular skill set. But I mean, who the hell since him? You can't call Coy Detmer dual threat.
no.
by any means. Maybe Joel Klatt.
I mean, they've had some, like Bernard Jackson
Yeah.
was quote unquote a dual threat, but he really
Well,
wasn't a dual threat. He was
he
a
couldn't throw
one
worth
threat,
a
and it
damn.
was his
Yeah,
legs.
yeah,
Yeah.
he couldn't throw worth a damn. He was a one threat. But what about Joel Klatt?
He was gritty. He was a gritty quarterback, but I would not call him a dual threat quarterback.
Because well, I mean, and then I think you mentioned that, and then I think that 2016 Cepho Lufau
He was a
was a dual.
fullback though. He wasn't. Yeah, I
All
guess
right,
that
all
is. I
right.
guess that. I
I'm
guess
putting
that is
one
a dual
up, man.
threat. But
I keep throwing names out there, and you keep saying shut your pie hole because you're wrong. But I think Cepho was a good, solid quarterback who could throw the
yeah,
ball well when he needed to, and then clearly the last couple of games of that season we put it on his back and used his legs. If that's not a dual threat, I
yeah.
don't know what the hell is.
Well, yeah. I just want to see a dual threat quarterback not have to
Yeah,
carry 8 people on a play and then have his body ruined after the season. That I guess that's what I'm going
yeah.
towards there.
Okay. I don't know. Got 10
He would,
minutes. I don't know.
yeah, to your point, William, Cepho Lufa was definitely a dual threat quarterback late in that season. He just wasn't going to gain more than the yard to gain or the end zone on that play,
Well,
I guess.
and it was the same play, quarterback draw. Well, I guess there was two.
Yeah,
There's a variation to go right, and there's a variation to go left. Quarterback draw right, quarterback draw left.
yeah.
And the funny thing
I
was, they couldn't stop him.
No, they couldn't.
And,
How
oh,
much respect did you gain for him, like in the month of November
yeah,
that year?
yeah.
Because it was for me, it was just,
He's just a
bro, like
warrior.
you are. Yeah, he's a warrior.
That
That's
that
the
Utah
way to
game,
say it.
that Utah game, they just kept doing it, and they just kept pounding him, and the guy get back up and
Yeah,
go do it
yeah.
again.
I
They,
hope
they,
you're
they,
doing well out there, Cephalufau, because you put your body on the line for the Colorado Buffaloes, and that was
he
a really fun time.
I mean, I love that guy. I mean,
Yeah,
you look at that guy. That you look back on the history of all the 40 years I've been watching CU football, and he didn't play in the NFL, but he's one of my favorite freaking CU players, man. Because the guy
yeah.
just had iron will, man, and he had balls, and he had, I guess I'm not allowed to say that, but don't tell Liz I said that. Um, he's got orbs.
Yeah, and he squeezed every bit
Yeah,
of
yeah, yeah.
potential out of
Well,
that sponge that he had from a potential
yeah.
standpoint,
And,
you know?
and, more important than anything else was he dragged everyone with him. He was a leader. You know,
Yeah,
he's the kind of guy that you go, and I'm not gonna let this guy down. I'm not gonna get beat. You know.
yeah. Dorn09 asked, biggest position hole on the team currently. I
Oh,
would
you missed.
probably, yeah, I'm going to skip that if that's
Okay.
okay.
Okay. Well, I
Do you
thought
want
you
do
were.
you want to go back to that? Do you want to talk
No.
about that? That could be a whole thing,
Okay. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I'm kind of, I don't know about you, William. I enjoyed the football talk. Like I was thinking about that. Like we had done these position by position deals of just talking football, and
Right.
that's what really inspires me about this job and some of the drama and past things. And I don't know. Well, maybe circle back to it, but
Okay. Well,
if
let's
that's
move on.
okay, are you okay with that?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you're. I'm running a show. I'm just a dumbass flapping his gums here. You tell me. You tee up the cheap shots, and I hit them. You know.
Let's see if we got one here. Dorn09 asked, biggest position hole in the team currently. I would probably say right tackle, followed by middle linebacker. I am wondering your thoughts.
I think those are the thinnest spots. I'm not sure that I would call them holes, given, you know, I think right tackle. You know what? I thought Philip Houston was pretty good at right tackle, and I don't know where he is on his progress.
He got pretty darn good before he got
Yeah,
hurt. That
he,
was really
he
unfortunate for him. Yeah.
yeah, and so I don't know where he is on the rehab. I don't have any reason not to believe he'll be ready by the season. The question is how ready and how much will he lose out on prep and lifting and what have you. But if Philip Houston was back at 100%, I'd be happy with him. But I also think Zy Chrysler is going to be a guy that's going to get out there at right tackle and do a damn good job as well. So we've got some guys that we can look at out there. You know, Carday Smith's got the talent. He just doesn't have the experience. So I don't think that right tackle to me is as big a hole as some people think it is. Linebacker is a big question mark, but we've got some damn good looking prospects there from the transfer portal. So it remains to be seen whether there's a hole there or not. But I don't know. Look, to me, you got Martavius French, Reginald Hughes, Jeremiah Brown, Kellen Salter, maybe Jalen Wester. But I think there's some bodies there, and uh, with our defensive coordinator, I think they'll be okay.
I think you hit it on the head in terms of we're recording this February 25th. You talk about it being a question mark versus a hole because you've got at least this year. They're talking about next year maybe going to one transfer window just in the winter, but this year you're going to have that post spring ball transfer portal
Right.
window where you've got 15 practices now to really know if you have a hole somewhere and you can
Right.
try to fill that. And they've had to do that the previous 2 years under Coach Prime. I think it'll be less about filling holes and more about filling in depth this time around. But if
And
yeah, somebody steps on the turf the wrong way, and all of a sudden, like, yeah, now you've got a hole and you got to fill it. So that's kind of where my thinking was with this. But I would say
and
at
I,
this point, I think he has a pretty good assessment of two spots you're kind of looking at trying to be
with the biggest
filled
question,
to make you feel confident. Yeah.
right, with the biggest question marks, and I think looking at those offensive line guys, I think we brought in a higher level of talent this year. I really think that. With McGill at center, and Ogunbiyi and Chrysler and Taimani, I think is really the wild card in all of this to me. Um, Big mono Taimani, and then a guy like Zach Owens is 6'6", and if the light comes on, maybe that he fills that spot. And so I don't know. There's a lot to work with there. It's a question mark, and it's not a sure thing. But I'm not sure that I would use the word holes for either spot. I'm really impressed at that linebacker spot with French and Hughes. Um, and again, last spring I thought Jeremiah Brown looked really good, in the coverage part of the inside linebacker stuff. So there's some people to work with.